Hello and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi Achint, proud to present to you a latest series of crisp and clear strategic discussions called the General's Talk, featuring Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar and Lieutenant General Satish Dua. Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, a retired Director General of the Artillery, now a professor in the Aerospace Department of the IIT Chennai. He is also an author of a strategic blog called thegunnershot.com. Lieutenant General Satish Dua, PVSM, UYSM, SM, VSM, served as the Chief of the Integrated Defence Staff to the Chairman of the Chiefs of Staff Committee. Today, he is a strategic thinker as well as an author of a book called The India's Brave Hearts. Subscribe to Dev Talks and hear what the generals have to say. General Shankar and General Dua, welcome to the General's Talk to talk about Article 370, 2 years and beyond. If I may have your permission, sir, I'd like to just give a little background before we dwell into the discussion. Article 370, let's take that first, acknowledges a special status for the state of Jammu and Kashmir in terms of autonomy and its ability to formulate laws for its permanent citizens. Article 35A, which is the second part of the Indian Constitution, was the article that empowered the state of Jammu and Kashmir legislature to define the permanent residence of the state. On the 5th of August 2019, a presidential order was issued, which is the Constitution Application to Jammu and Kashmir Order 2019, which superseded the Constitution Application Order of 1954. The presidential order stated that all provisions of the Indian Constitution shall apply equally to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, which in turn abrogated the constitution that the state used to use before that date. The Home Minister on the floor of the House of the Parliament said that Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir would be made as separate union territories which would be governed by the center. Further to that, I think all of us know the story of a little bit turmoil and the events that took place in the past 2 years. I'd like to take this opportunity to discuss with both these eminent thinkers and personalities to evaluate where the situation stands today and looking forward. General Dua sir, I'd like to start with you. Has this entire change that was taking place on the 5th of August 2019 changed the things in the state? Has it gone for the worse, for the better? What is your opinion, sir?
Thank you, Adi. I think modifying Article 370 was an epic and a bold decision. It was long overdue. While it means different things to different people, there is no denying that things will never be the same again. In the last 2 years, now that we are speaking on the second anniversary, in the last 2 years, let me try and just take firstly how things have improved. And then we'll come to the pitfalls. It is not as if everything is hunky-dory and there is nothing to worry about. We have issues that we must be very careful about. But just to give a measure of how things have changed, let me talk first on the development front and second on the security front. And in the last 2 years, let me start by saying that investment proposals worth 15,000 crore rupees have been received from 40 companies to invest in J&K from sectors like IT, defense, renewable energy, tourism, hospitality, education, infrastructure, etc. 2 huge IT parks are being set up in Jammu and Srinagar respectively. 15 power projects have been inaugurated and 20 more have been started. Foundation stones have been laid. AIIMS, IIT, IIM, and 80 new educational institutions are going to create 25,000 additional student vacancies. There has been 100% electrification, 43% of the rural areas have drinking water. Incidentally, the national average is 21% in the rural area. Okay, now changing tack. I was a co-commander in 2015 when Prime Minister Modi visited, and he announced a package of 80,000 crores for various development schemes. In 4 years, from 2015 to 2019, in 4 years, only a little over one third of this package could be utilized. I brought this out only to say what was the pace of things earlier and what is the pace of things now, and why is the pace picked up. And yes, one more very important aspect is that there has been empowerment of the grassroots level. The panchayat elections, now there is a full-fledged tier panchayat system in the state, and approximately 35,000 crore rupees have been disbursed through the panchayats. These meet the local aspirations and empowers the grassroots. With all this happening on the development front and more, I have just taken out some big empirical data that was staring at our face in the face. Um, Next, on the security front. On the security front, ever since 5th of August 2019, the security situation is much better. The anti-infiltration grid has always been robust, but now the incidents, or in the hinterland, there have been concerted operations. Security forces also get a free hand to conduct their operations. Our coordination and synergy between the forces is much better, and the violence levels are down by about 60%. Even the fatal casualties amongst the security forces have reduced by 35%. Now, in the last 2 months, if you would have noticed in the news, last 2 months alone, 80 terrorists have been eliminated in the Kashmir Valley. When I bring out all this, it is only to point out that, and there have been the incidents of buns, protests, stone pelting are down in a significant manner, in significant numbers. So when I point out all this, what I'm trying to say is that things have improved, development is taking place, there is outreach by the administration, violence levels are down, and the best part is that there are no buns and protests. Common man is fed up of all this. Uh, am I saying that everything is okay before I end my comment? I don't think so. There is still alienation. I don't say that everything is fine and people are very happy. There are people who still have those vociferous tendencies. There are people who still talk about azadi. There are people who do create violence. They want to have protest. But this is our chance. I will stop my comment now. This is our chance. Now that administration is being administered, or the state is being governed from the center because it is a union territory, this is the chance to uh, show better governance, better outreach, have all of government approach to usher in development. It will take a long time. It will take time to undo what has happened in last 3 decades, but we are on the right path as of now. Then Shankar, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think it was a momentous decision to scrap Article 370. Uh, it took out, I wouldn't say the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. It equalized Jammu and Kashmir with the rest of India. For the first time, whatever is applicable to all of us everywhere in India was now applicable to the common man in Jammu and Kashmir. A lot of benefits, what you and I derived from our constitution, was being denied to the common man there. That has happened, right? The second thing is a lot of things which, this is what I'm talking in hindsight. A lot of things which were being filtered at the middle level, at the state level, at the district level, or at the intermediary level, which could not reach the common man, has been taken away. And then, of course, like what General Dua said, the militancy status has improved, the security environment has improved, and normal administration has come in. I think we'll have to give it time. It's too early to think that everything will be normal. It will take its own time. What has been from 54 to now, we're talking over 6 decades, 5 decades, right? So things will take time to even out, but they will. I mean, I have no doubt about that.
That is interesting, sir, because that is, I think, what all of us in India want. It's not something that we want it to magically disappear one fine day, and because all of us understand it's not going to happen. And but I think the common perception amongst everybody is that the place needs to be equalized just like any other place in India.
You see, the initial emotional outbursts of a lot of people who didn't appreciate this, and especially those politicians and all, have now started realizing that there's no going back. I mean, you can curse it for what it has happened, but there's no going back, like what General Dua said. So you have to move forward, and people have now started moving forward. That's a good part.
That's a good part, sir. At least the politics of this country, which is normally very mixed up, has looked in one single direction, is moving in that. That's very encouraging. General Shankar, sir, a lot of analysts also attribute the push that the Chinese put in Ladakh last year to Article 370 as well, and a couple of statements that were made in the floor of the House by the Union Home Minister as well. That is one part. Second thing is, I'd like you to also comment about the changes in the relationship between India and Pakistan. Why I mention this is because there's also a thought process wherein we talk about a collusion between both these to create some sort of a pressure on India in the north, especially, sir.
Yeah, Article 370, without doubt, has affected China and Pakistan. Let's be very clear. Why? When you said Article 370 and Jammu and Kashmir, as it was handed over to us, the entire Aksai Chin, you have laid claim, right? Simultaneously, the entire Gilgit-Baltistan and the POK part, you have again reiterated your claim. You not laid claim, you only reiterated saying that, look, this is ours, don't forget that. Now, how has it affected Pakistan? For Pakistan, it was a political strike. You see, the Indo-Pak dialogue was more oriented toward military attack and raids and terrorism. It was governed by the security envelope. For the first time, this was a political envelope for which the Pakistani army didn't have a answer. It was left on the sidelines wringing its hands. They didn't know what to do. And Pakistan also didn't know what to do, how to reply back. Yeah, they went to the UN, all that, but UN has also now brushed us aside and it has taken its course. So Pakistan was left without a handle, right? It can keep crying that we want to go back to the status quo, anti, all that, but nothing will happen. China. Now, China took it very seriously, right? Though our external affairs minister at that point of time went to China and explained that, look, it doesn't change anything and all that. But I have been of the firm opinion that Article 370 or the abrogation of Article 370 and restaking your claim on Aksai Chin and telling China, look, this is you're in our land, right, has forced them to react. And one of the ways of reacting, and this is common, everyone says one of the reasons for the Eastern Ladakh assertion of last year, Galwan and Pangong Tso aggression and everything is because of Article 370. So there's no doubt about it. And of course, since both of them have been affected parties, they have colluded. There's no doubt that they will collude. There was never a doubt that they'll collude. It is only that Article 370 has made them collude again. Right. But does it affect us? No. You restaked your claim. You put the political issue back on the forefront. Now they have to take cognizance of it. Right. And if you, in one of our earlier dialogues, I did mention the moment you lay stake or rather reaffirm your stake on Gilgit Baltistan and POK, you are hitting a nerve center of China-Pak collusive. Gilgit Baltistan, I still feel, is the center of gravity of this entire region, especially with what's happening in Afghanistan. Because Gilgit Baltistan gives you the leeway to go to the Wakhan corridor or rather into Afghanistan through the Kunjrab Pass, and of course, you also have a handle directly into the Xinjiang region. So it affects China's sensitivity, right? And you lay claim on it. So there has been a reaction, but have we been able to manage it well? I think so, right? Uh, will we do what we did? We said we would. We'll do 2 years back. It's a political process. Let us see how the politics play out. I do hope that we get back our land. That's our land. After all, we have seats for that part, the POK and Gilgit Baltistan in our assembly, in the earlier assembly. And I'm sure when the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir gets back after the delimitation process to be a state, those seats will be reiterated. So it's our land. So I'm sure the politics will start. But I think it's been in my way of thinking, uh, we've reaffirmed our stake on our land, which is one great thing about Article 370. Put Pakistan on the sideline. China is wary about us, right? That's how I look at it. Any views, Satish?
Um, I have a quick comment, and I will not. I will request that we will not take this discussion forward. I
Yeah.
have a point. I have a point of difference with you, sir. While we make all those statements, brinkmanship about Baltistan and other areas of POK, as a military man, I do not feel that it will really be practical that if we are going to take over those areas, and we have that as a lever is good as a leverage, but at the present moment we have issues with Kashmir. What about that population that you inherit? It was going to be a uphill match with friction, just day-to-day administration.
I
Let's not get
completely.
sidetracked. Let's not
No,
get
I
sidetracked.
agree completely on that.
It is
At
good
home.
to have those statements, and I agree with your sentence on this point. You said it's a question, it's a leadership call, and we will see how it happens.
Yeah, we'll see. It's a political thing, and it's gonna have its own time.
Fair enough. I guess this is one story that I think a lot of us are going to be also debating amongst ourselves after listening to two different opinions on this, and that I appreciate that, sir. Because at the end of it, this is a democracy, and that is the whole game about a democracy, where all the opinions can be brought together and thought about, and created. A path needs to be created to achieve whatever is in our national interest. At the end of it, that is the most important thing. Janadua sir, let's talk about a little bit of the pitfalls, or the in a very crass way of speaking, what are the holes in what are the potholes that we can see on the road ahead? Because we also have, as you also mentioned, that there are certain elements which are there which are against this entire thing. It's been stated politically as well. It's been stated by certain individuals in that area as well. What do you think are the pitfalls? One of them I just mentioned, but what do you think are the other pitfalls that you would like to address and keep a track of?
Yes, Adi, the situation in the valley, while I recounted how security situation has improved, how also the conditions in the valley on day-to-day life are improving, but the situation in the valley remains precarious. We are still sitting in a minefield. However strong our posture on the line of control and security grid in the hinterland may be, um, there is always that small chance of a lone wolf attack. After all, let's not forget, Pulwama was just one man suicide car bomb attack. Yes, he was supported by others, but it was that one man attack. So, if a suicide terrorist can create Pulwama, we could actually get pushed into operational brinkmanship again. Any high visibility incident can trigger violent reactions in the valley. Effort to control that can spark off. When you try and control that kind of protests and violence and stone pelting, it can lead to casualties, and it can spark off a spiral of violence. Therefore, what do we do? I think it calls for very astute handling. It on part of everyone involved, security forces, intelligence agencies, all the government organs there, because you need to keep a finger on the pulse, a keen ear to the ground to understand if there is any buildup of that kind. And there is a need for a unified approach and all of government approach. The other thing I think that is very important. The only other one aspect that I would like to sort of flag over here is ultimately, even if it's going to take time, ultimately it is the people of Kashmir who have to give up this idea of azadi or idea of the support to Pakistan. So uh, there, 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 uh, there can't be, there can be no lasting peace till people start to think differently. When youth raise their slogans for azadi, without even being clear about what do they want azadi from and why is this happening. Sorry, and to do what do we need to do? I think I am driving to the point that we need to build a national narrative, credible, robust, factual narrative based on development and progress that we spoke about, based on security, better security situation. There have been shortcomings in our narrative. A space that has been filled up by the opposite side, the narrative of hate. We need to create that strategic communication. And most importantly, we need to dispel that uncertainty. We have to create hope in the minds of Kashmiri people. Everybody, the young men and women who were born in the last 3 decades, especially, they have only seen violence and strife. They have gone through a lot of deprivations. So, for them, we must get back the mind space of the youth. They are the key to integration, and that's why I say it will take time. It will take 2 generations, but we have to start making a national narrative which should be credible. For that, we require all that development that we spoke of earlier. We require a better security situation and an all of government approach. It is not easy, but it is not insurmountable. Thank you, Adi.
In fact, it's the political aspect, how fast can you get the politics back on track is
Involvement,
important.
yes. Mm.
How can you devolve a statehood back to this area? How can that state be governed by themselves? How can you ensure that the region of Jammu and Srinagar meld? How can the common man feel he's part of India? Like what General Dua said, I think there's a requirement of a major narrative, how you put it across. And part of this narrative was to also tell them, look, you can't go with Pakistan. China will not help you. The world is changing. There are two aspects to this narrative, the way I look at it. One is to show them the dark side and right, and the bright side they're living. And the second part is how how can their side be brighter, and how can their aspirations be part of India, or Indian aspirations can be devolved on them. I think these are the things which we have to really look at. And
Absolutely agree, sir. And as a matter of fact, thank you for mentioning the blending of Jammu region and Kashmir as well, because in this whole conversation, one thing that gets kind of left out of the people of Jammu, and that's something which is pretty evident by the voices that come out of there itself, because they say that it's just a small piece of area where there is trouble, whereas the larger part of this entire area is generally peaceful. And
what
they are
General Dua said is very important. People
absolutely,
have to accept it. I
absolutely,
mean, they remain the center of gravity.
absolutely,
Right? Development can take place, whether dam is there or not, electricity is there or not. Okay, but people have to be convinced about the whole affair.
absolutely. That is, I think this is the key to the entire thing. It has to be a whole of country approach wherein all of us as citizens need to inculcate and imbibe the people from within our systems from that area. And this was also a problem that we faced with the northeast, but generally speaking, that is dying down a little bit. This has to be done with the Jammu and Kashmir region as well, and that's something I personally believe in. There's no question about it.
We are
I
getting
want to
all
add
of
a small anecdote.
Northeast.
Huh?
I said
Huh?
they're getting Olympic medals from the Northeast.
Yeah, I have a lot of Olympic medals. Yes, I agree with you. I would like to put something anecdotally in perspective. We need to connect Jammu and Kashmir with the rest of India. How do you do it? That's a question. I live in a state, Tamil Nadu, which has a great connect with Jammu and Kashmir. whenever the people of Jammu and Kashmir, the leaders of Jammu and Kashmir have had problems that they come and stayed in Tamil Nadu. I don't know how many people know it. Yeah, it's a fact. All right. In fact, Mehbooba Mufti's daughter stayed here in Chennai and kept giving out a statement and all that. I'm saying this part of a democracy, right? There is a connect. It is not as if it is not there. How do you build it is the $1 million question, right?
Exactly.
So that's what I'm looking at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moving on from the people, sir, we mentioned during our discussion previously as well the word Afghanistan, and that's something which is obviously in the forefront of any strategic dialogue today. What we noticed in in a couple of decades ago, that when there was a little bit of actually not a little bit, there was a whole lot of turmoil within Afghanistan, it flowed in towards India. Pakistan became a conduit for this whole thing to start up. And in the army lingo, it was known as FTs and LTs, foreign terrorists and local terrorists. So there was a lot of foreign terrorists that were coming into Kashmir at that time. Do you see a replay of something like that happening? And how far do you see this actually being perpetuated by Pakistan again, sir?
Well, can I take it on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You see, it's like this. You have to, theoretically speaking, it's feasible. To some extent, it might happen still. But to get a better understanding, you have to compare the time of at that time what was the situation and today. At that time in Afghanistan, right, all these mujahideen were left aimless. They had no job. USA had walked away from there. USSR was in the path of destruction, right? Now all these fellows were there, and Pakistan found it useful, trained people, foreign terrorists, and they were sent across to India, right? Will that happen again? Very difficult. Why? The two, three reasons. First, USA is not walking away from there. They're not going to give a Taliban a free run. Remember, USA is the prime driver in Afghanistan still, because unless they are very clear that a terrorist attack is not imminent from Afghanistan, they will not let Afghanistan go. If they will not let Afghanistan go, Taliban will be on a leash or in the opposing camp, and they will always support the current Afghan dispensation or a shared dispensation. So that one has to understand. Okay, so to that extent, the focus will not come back to Kashmir in a hurry, and Afghanistan will not get resolved in the next 5-6 years. Plus, China is entering Afghanistan because it's got interests, and it has got its own backlash problems. So you will not find this terrorism business, taking a U-turn and coming towards Kashmir. That's one reason. The second thing is that the Durand line of Pakistan is going unstable already. There have been protests of PTM as to why Pakistan is getting involved in Afghanistan. Similarly, the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, which is in Afghanistan, has now started attacking, targeting Pakistan. So that's not going to run away. So certain amount of turmoil will continue. So I don't see the situation, and everyone knows the situation in Afghanistan will not stabilize in a hurry. Then there's a refugee situation which is yet to happen. Now all these put together will not, permit Pakistan the luxury or give the luxury to put some of these chaps back into J&K as a revenge to Article 370 or XYZ. Okay, that is one part of the story. This can happen only when there is some relative peace in Afghanistan and Taliban has got a share, and then Taliban doesn't have to maintain all these fighters, and then those fighters become footloose, and then those footloose guys are taken by Pakistan and China. I don't rule it out, and filtered back as right. That possibility is there, and we should never wish it away. We should keep monitoring the situation. It might not happen immediately, 2 to 3 years. Minimum 2 to 3 years, I don't think it's going to happen. After 2 to 3 years, we'll have to see. And it is for that reason, again, you can root all these chaps out only if you have the people with you. Only if your security grid is better. Only if you're able to increase your capabilities to keep China at bay and Pakistan at bay. Because the danger at that point, if it happens, is if these foreign terrorists come and create mayhem in the valley and create instability in the valley, then the collusive threat becomes stronger. And so we have to keep this, on the button. Yeah, I think the co-commander of 15 Corps has to will have a view on it.
As an infantryman, you brought out all the correct dimensions as we approach from outside to inside our borders. But as an infantryman, let me also add to it that 2021 is not 1991.
Yeah.
Those were the days when India was going through its own problems on the economic front. Politically, we had a coalition government. The military and the security forces were dealing with this problem. At that time, additional army was being pumped in. We were only looking at LOC before that. So we were on a different wicket. Today, we have raised a huge counter-terrorism force, namely Rashtriya Rifles. We have on the LOC, we have a fence and with sensors and lighting. We have a lot of processes in place, and the forces have been thickened up. Both army and the other CFPFs. We have better better combat experience as far as counter-terrorism is concerned. So today, if they, after the way General Shankar described, even if they come to a pass when they have Footloose and jihadis to spare and they want to push them, Pakistan wants to push them here, they are going to be effectively blocked by all these tactical measures that I mentioned.
I think it's not only a matter of blocking. What you have said is very important. In 1991, India was termed a weak state. It's no more a weak state. Okay. If Pakistan tries something funny like this and these foreign terrorists start coming up, you can go across. After you did Balakot, you did surgical strikes. In fact, General Satish Dua masterminded the surgical ground strikes on 2016. You can hit them across. You can carry out, punitive fire strikes across. We've done that. We can destroy. I mean, we have tremendous capability on the CI grid. Cross LOC, you can carry out non-contact warfare. So much more. And all this time around, you will have international support. Remember that. The moment the thing about all these terrorists and all this, it is, well, some will come into JNK, some will get filtered out also. They'll create mayhem elsewhere. So the FATF, all those mechanisms will come back into action. And today, everyone knows Pakistan's game. Pakistan is now exposed. So I don't think it's going to go back to that level. But definitely, we should keep our guard up, right? And our capacities are huge. I mean, I agree with them completely, right? Whether it is armor, infantry, mech, artillery, we are very strong on the grid. And let me tell you, even as an artilleryman, I've been on the CI grid. We are very good people who can sort these fellows out. That I'm not too bothered. It's the international ramifications and how you handle it. That actually gives you an opportunity also.
Opportunity to put some additional pressure.
Yeah, I agree.
Interesting. I think both of you brought out only one very, very major thing, that the times have changed, and for Pakistan to actually repull something and reorganize something like that, which is what they did a couple of decades ago, is going to be much too difficult, because at the end of it, the Pakistani economic situation today is also not where it was back in the 1990s. They were pretty well to do at that particular point of time, and they got a lot of money from a whole lot of different places, which is right now not in the right paradigm. So now I'd request both of you, please, to close this discussion with a comment from each one of you. But I'd like you to please, spend a little time to tell us about Pakistan is one nuisance that is going to keep us there, and they will try a whole lot of different tactics, evolutionary tactics. For example, the drone attack that happened. So there's going to be a development in this subconventional warfare threat. I'd like you to please comment on this particular thing in your closing comments, and with, of course, whatever what thoughts you have, sir. General, would you like to start, sir?
You are right to say that Pakistan will keep trying to, is likely to sort of reinvent something or the other, to invent something or the other, to keep fomenting trouble in Kashmir. Whether it is drone now or any other tools or dimensions later. Because the Pakistan army gets its importance from Kashmir. Kashmir also seems to be a glue that binds Pakistan together. In Pakistan, a child is taught Kashmir banega Pakistan without even knowing where Kashmir is. I mean, they actually have that thought. It's something that binds them together. So we can expect something or the other from them always. But the fact remains, we need to worry more about our own people. We need to get into their minds, in our children. Forget about Pakistan. We need to get into their minds that there is nothing in it for them to join Pakistan or to support Pakistan or to get from Pakistan. And I think that will happen. Youth today have aspirations. I mean, youth in JNK also have similar aspirations as youth anywhere else. And as development and growth starts affecting across the board, the entire population across the board, I think we will see a change in minds and heart. And like I said earlier, it will take time. We have to understand that. Don't expect quick results, and be patient. I think that is the way to go about it, and we'll be able to marginalize. Whether or not we will be able to root out the thing totally, we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and watch as to how it happens. I mean, even in the Punjab problem, you find an odd thing happening once or twice. It would happen there. So we should bring it down to a level that is absolutely negligible. And that's the way I think we need to look at the whole issue. Look at our own people. Look inwards more than trying to see as to what we can do with Pakistan. Security-wise, the entire thing, whether it is drones, cyber attacks, all that will happen, and that's something that we will keep matching wits and matching strengths as time goes by. And I think we have to show to the people of JNK and to the rest of India that everyone will lead a better life in this new order. Thank you.
So,
Daniel Shankar.
Yeah. The first thing, we are discussing Article 370 in 2 years hence, right? It has happened. 2 years have passed. There's no way we're going to go back. Out of question. That's over. You have to look ahead. How can you make it go ahead? That's the challenge. And I'll put it this way. The first challenge is political. Can we get our politics together and make it succeed? And a large part of politics revolves around how you can convince people that this is good for them, how they can accept and take it forward. Right? Development is just a process in this game. And let's not expect instant results. There will be good times, there will be a few bad times also, but it's going to take time, maybe a decade, maybe 2 decades, maybe a generation. But slowly you have to target things and depoison minds of the people, right? They have to rethink their whole story. Yeah, in this entire process, Pakistan will do its utmost to reverse it. They will put all kinds of barriers in your way. That's expected. I mean, like what General Dua said, in fact, for them, anything anti-India is Pakistan. Anything, Kashmir is there. Kashmir banega Pakistan type, you know. So Kashmir unka zehen mein hai. That's what they keep saying, right? But we also have to understand that they are also not able to handle Kashmir themselves well. It's not as if it's a one-way street that, you know, POK and Gilgit-Baltistan is in a happy-go-lucky situation, you know, Valhalla forever type. No, we need to handle that also. So that is the thing. And the most important thing is internal strength. China will not give up its Aksai Chin in a hurry. I mean, they're not even prepared to give up Depsang and, you know, Gogra. They're not going back right from the what it is. So it's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a tough time ahead. This is going to be a tinderbox situation with China for times to come. The LAC is hardening. Troops are being built up. There's no question of reversal anyway. So that part is also there. But for us to succeed with China and Pakistan, the internal thing has to come back together. Article 370 or scrapping it has to be made a success. And that success is not just by this government. It will be by this government, the next government, and the next government, and probably the next government. I'm putting 5-year terms, maybe 2 years, 20 years ahead, is when we will probably start seeing real daylight in Kashmir as part of India. Right? After all, it's taken that much time for Punjab to normalize, and you still have issues there, right? So these will be there. So, right, and it's taken us that much time to normalize Northeast. There are still issues there. So let's not hope that everything will become hunky dory in 2 years.
Yeah.
It's only been 2 years. The road ahead is long, tough. Good thing is that we are stuck to it.
Absolutely.
The situation is a lot better than the thing, and I'm hopeful. You know, I have full confidence in all of us as Indians that we will take Kashmir and Kashmiris along with all of us. They're part of us.
No question about that, sir. There is no question.
And we are also part of them.
I think the whole idea of doing this, you know, the abrogation was to integrate, and that is something which is, you know, a much spoken about word today, that bring them together within the central stream of the country, and let the country also go back there and try and see the opportunities of generating employment, as Janadu also mentioned about various different companies and organizations setting up there. I'd like to sum up, sir. The key thing that I think both of you have brought out very, very carefully is the factor that the people are the key. There has to be a narrative which is created showing them the future, which is a brighter, better, and you know, for their future generations. The people there right now of a certain age who've seen the violence obviously have a certain wound. I think it is very critical for us to put a little bit of, you know, cream or something on it. Dressing has to be done. That wound needs some time to heal. And the best it would be that negative narratives, which are obviously also there within our country, that needs to be put on the side, because the more positivity that we are able to actually push across within the valley, within the surrounding regions, the better it will be for us. And as a matter of fact, one of the easiest things to start up is tourism. You know, currently it's COVID, but you know, the times after COVID will be very, very critical to provide for the money within the hands of the local people. Because at the end of it, you know, if you just look at Srinagar, the Dal Lake, which is there, and the whole, you know, those the houseboats and this and that, if we are able to provide them with employment, we are able to provide them with opportunities to grow. I think their focus would change from, you know, looking at all these various different activities, which are also connected with money. And I think both of you will agree with that, towards a genuine way of earning money and taking their future generations forward. Thank you, sir, for bringing out the factors which affect this entire thing, the international factors. We've talked about Pakistan, we've talked about China, we've talked about Afghanistan and what's happening around there. It is a developing situation. 2 years is, you know, it's just a very short time for a place to start healing, especially with the violence still continuing there, militancy still there, and insurgency obviously at a very low level. But thank you so much for having this discussion, and I look forward to a better future for Jammu and Kashmir as well as Ladakh.
Thank you, Adi.
Thanks, Adi.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.